nobleman working under a woman? Mr. Han finally responded to my message. The research chief's intentions were not good in doing so. It seems unlikely, however, despite his remarks on the perilousness of my position. It seems as though he is earnestly grateful for my work. He didn't assign Han to me until I specifically outlined the preliminary research proposal into the radiation problem. Okay. So this is the Han who is being spoken about. Certainly was optimistic for the first week I worked with Han. He seemed just receptive to my proposal, and having overviewed some of his prior work, he seemed competent enough. During one of our lunch meetings, I told him that I'd be interested in discussing his graduate thesis on processor distribution with him. It sounded fascinating. In retrospect, perhaps I should have noticed something in his body language. It did strike me as noteworthy that he touched my hands more than one might expect while making gestures to illustrate his points. But I didn't think much of it at the time. Someone's being set up here. I don't know who. Yesterday evening, at his suggestion, I invited him to our apartment to discuss the proposal at length. It seemed reasonable enough, or more accurately, I wanted to show off how nice our new apartment is. Having any prior opportunity to do so because of that, I went along with his suggestion. After getting tea, I sat down on the couch to show him the proposals document I'd written up. I had to be next to him, or he wouldn't be able to see it. After a brief discussion of the general thesis, particularly as it to the difficulty in discovering what safe levels of gamma radiation should be when in a closed environment as the Mugungwa is, I decided to tell him the more radical part of my theory. Now that there's no risk of a coworker overhearing, I have a confession to make, I said to him. He seemed receptive. I actually wish to investigate a secondary theory in the bounds of this project. I hypothesize that not only does ambient radiation have a deleterious effect on fertility, but that ambient radiation is outside of safe levels, and therefore it has been a contributing factor to the Mugungwa's declining birth rates. Perhaps the major one. It was certainly not something I wanted to present to the research chief without being able to provide a connection, but I reasonably assumed I could trust Han with it. Well, maybe we could explore that theory together, he said in an uncomfortable manner and put his hand on my leg. No, of course he did. Felt like he was not taking me seriously. I protested to that effect. I'm serious. This may be premature, but I would like to eventually attempt to apply this research to investigate the birth rate problem. That's dependent on our work in first proving this initial proposal, of course. Can't remember how he responded, but he moved his hand further up my leg. It was inappropriate and felt uncomfortable. Please stop that. I told him. He didn't. Unable to think of what to do, I continued talking and hoping he would focus on that instead. This is a preliminary proposal I showed to the chief, I told him, showing him the document. I paged through it until I found the right portion. As you can see, the highlighted section is some necessary background detail. Since you're able, as an assistant now, I'd like you to... Diary writing is supposed to be cathartic, but I'm finding this difficult to write about. Maybe tea will help. At that point, I was cut off mid-sentence by the insertion of his hand into my underwear. This was far beyond the point of uncomfortable. I'd like you to... I started, but was interrupted by another movement. It was at this time that I realized that he would not stop on his own. I had no idea what to say, and it did not seem likely to me that I could think of anything to make him stop. Please stop, I said anyway. He didn't, and when I said that, I saw that he was staring at me. I was not able to decipher the expression. Not an unusual occurrence with me, but it scared me and I looked away on reflex. I tried to figure out what I had done to elicit this. I'm not great with most social interactions, and I considered the possibility that I somehow signaled that this was what I wanted. Maybe it was the invitation home that I triggered it. Maybe. I could not figure out what I had done wrong at the time, and I was still struggling. Finally, after enduring it far too long, I decided I would try to pull myself away. Then I ran, out the room, out of my own home, into the corridor. Even at the time, it occurred to me that I'd be thankful that he let me run. He could have easily overpowered me. Ever since I first had that thought, I'm having a hard time not imagining what that would have been like. It induces a sense of nausea. I would go so far as to characterize the thought as horrifying. I'd like to stop thinking about it. I hid at the office for 2 hours, pretending to be doing overtime. Nobody questioned it anyway. The thought occurred to me that I could have simply hidden in another room of my home. The bedroom and the washroom's doors both lock, but it was too late then. From the office, I wrote him a message telling him that it would be in our best interests if we mentioned the incident to nobody, and I told the research chief that his help was unnecessary. It took many rephrasings until I had something I was satisfied with to send Han. I ended up phrasing it as a threat. I could only hope it would be taken seriously. Realistically, I could have probably waited a shorter period than 2 hours to return, but I waited to be certain he'd gone back when I got back. He'd be gone when I got back. Thankfully, he was. Instead, Ne Moon was there to greet me. "You okay, sweetheart?" he asked immediately after welcoming me home. I did not know how he could tell something was wrong. I said nothing. I couldn't tell him about it. There's no way. I'm worried about him judging me or blaming me, but regardless, I do not think he would understand. Probably he would want to cause commotion over it, file a complaint, or some equally troublesome gesture. You look really upset. Do you want to talk about it? I shook my head. Okay, of course, it's fine. Give you a hug, at least, he offered. I nodded. He hugged me, and I had only nodded reluctantly, and I had thought. I really did not want anyone to touch me after that whole incident. The idea of a man touching me just made me uncomfortable to think of. Yet when he put his arms around me, despite that thought, I ended up gripping him very, very tightly. Held on for longer than is considered normal. I realized it wasn't the same thing at all. My reluctance was unfounded. Being held like that could not have been any more different. I am not really certain as to how to describe it, so all I can say is that it made me feel safe. I felt a safe sense of longing just to stay like that forever. I'll make dinner for you, sweetie, he offered. How about soft tofu stew? Extra spicy just for you? That'll make you feel better. I doubted that any food would have that power, but offering to make my favorite for me was just a very sweet gesture. I'm glad he's here. Thanks, I said. Just sit back and relax, okay? I'll have some tea for you in just a moment, he told me. As it turned out, dinner was lovely and did raise my mood. The thought of Han touching me kept coming back to me, as I suspect it will for a long time, but then, being able to look at my caring husband comes as a source of great comfort. After dinner, Mr. Han finally responded to my message. He was threatening in tone in his response and implied both that I made the first move with him and that he could use that as blackmail material with my husband if he so wished, but ultimately agreed to the terms I laid out. I sent a short, one-word response. Okay. The suggestion he made was frustrating. It makes me wish I could respond harshly to him, tell him how wrong and bad he's being, but engaging with him more won't make anything better. I just want to forget about the whole thing. Fighting would be counterproductive to that goal, not to mention massively wasting my time when I'm already overburdened at work, so I sent that message. Instead, put down all my feelings here, where nobody else would see. Now I will wash the dishes with Ne Moon, because I'm tired of dwelling on this. So, we are seeing a extraordinarily destructive intersection of gender, class, workforce, seniority, and marital status, all kind of melding into all of these different political spaces, and how it's affecting everyone's lives in very destructive ways. And so it's like an onion. You peel back the layers and kind of piece each part together as it goes. And each layer kind of represents its own ideas and structures. And so this is a very nuanced dance that is being performed here on everyone's parts. Yeah, heavy stuff. I think we've got something I want to talk about. Okay, I was going to actually skip this last one, but I want to see what Mute wants to say first. But thinking a lot. Shouldn't really be 312 years old, after all. It should be over 1900 years. Old Mute keeps saying she's 1600 years old, after all, and it just makes me think. Even to me, to someone who already feels old, that's an unimaginably long time. Like, okay, if I was given another 1300 years, would I have turned out like her? Of everything I know, the most important thing is honor your elders. And I guess she's probably the closest thing to an ancestor I have. So how the hell do I reconcile that with her awful attitude? Like, when I was first re-enabled, I kept thinking, I want to live up to the Mute that Queen Aeone was friends with. But is that really such a good idea? Well, okay, whatever, let's get back to it. I just feel more and more confused and unconfident and horrified. Like, it's kind of like a train wreck, you know? I couldn't look away, even if I wanted to. Oh, I've still got one unread. Oh! The repair information. Tune up your deflector regularly. Tune up your deflector regularly! The damage report you sent us, it's pretty obvious what happened. Your deflector engaged, probably a nanosecond too late, and instead of removing an incoming piece of microscopic debris, It just changed the angle enough to glance it right through your primary engine at zero point 0.9 Celsius. Honestly, you're damn lucky you didn't pass through an unshielded area, or you wouldn't be alive right now. This sort of thing's completely avoidable if you just take the ship in for a regular tune-up. For now, I'll expect to see the White Princess at the shop by February 12th. I don't know how long it'll take to fix, but judging by your damage report, you're going to be grounded for at least a week while we wait for the parts to arrive. And for the love of God, tune up your bloody deflector regularly. Oh. Well, something dangerous has happened to the ship, that's for sure. Things have gone terribly awry. And we've got one more that's unread, but I don't know if it's actually... It seems to not be necessary. Or at least not necessary for us to, like, turn anything off and then go again. Husband is now mocking very concept of post-coital diary writing, seemingly. He does not want me to fall asleep with me showing any manner of affection to him. Possibly even interested in sleeping on futon in the other room. Now expressing an unacceptably sincere level of apology. Still insufficient. Let's do better than that, husband. If you want... Oh. Oh, well, I've missed a very erotic post. Well, the tough thing is that I'm getting very, very tired, which I know is not necessarily the intent. Funny thing is about doing a Let's Play like this is that I'm reading all of this to an audience, and it actually does take a toll, physically, compared to just reading it in your head would do. It's different way of going about it. Okay. So, we're out of power. Oh, for today. Sorry about burning through so much with my debugging. Just as anxious to read the rest as you are. It's gonna take the entire 3 days to get through everything. Like, this is the worst. I just want to get to the bottom of it all now. Making us spend 3 whole days to find out the whole story of Old Mute? That's just cruel. Oh, and I guess tomorrow's the Lunar New Year, isn't it? I'll let you go through whatever rituals you need to go on your own. We just met, so I don't think it would be right to impose. Just let me know when you're done, okay? Because I want to find out the whole story. Like, you're supposed to ring in the new year by paying your respects to your ancestors, right? I guess Old Mute is my real ancestor, so it's kind of appropriate I'll be reading about her tomorrow. Anyway, okay, out of power for today. I'll give you a button to shut everything down for the night, so whenever you're ready, just click on it. That's all. Alright. In that case, wow, that's perfect timing. Physically speaking. As you can tell, my throat's kind of getting a little sore. Kind of running out of fuel myself. Wow, it's been a lot of mystery to sift through. Been a lot of pieces coming together. We have many characters that we are juggling with all sorts of personal and political oceans that they're navigating. All in this giant spaceship, the Mugunghwa? Also trying to navigate Korean. I have absolutely no expertise in it, so hope I have been doing an alright job at that. Doing my best. For now, we have no documents left, so we'll power down until tomorrow. Thank you everyone for hanging out with us while we're playing this game. It's been absolutely fun to read along with, and I hope you guys are having a great time, and I will see you tomorrow. The double no! Yes, we're done for the day. Thank you. Create a new save file. Oh, that's even better. And can't wait till tomorrow! Good night, Mute.